Hey everybody, BTO Pro here. Today I'm going to show you real quick some of the wiring we're putting in place with HAXcms to start to turn it into more of a multi-layered system where you can kind of skip back and forth between sites, get a larger context to things. So if you're not familiar with HAXcms, it's effectively a multi-site or mini-site dashboard when you start. So if I log out in my dashboard and I type my wonderfully secure local username and password, what I'm seeing is a listing of websites that I can jump to. Then what happens, like I'm going to go to a test one here. I can find the test one on my list. There it is, my home. Okay, so then I jump to a site, I'm working on it in context of what it is, right? I pull up this thing and I go and I edit stuff with the Hax editor, remove that image, hit save, it refreshes the end. So an issue with this, because we have this hypermodularity, where effectively these sites aren't really associated in any way, taking a glance at what's going on under the hood here. So this is the file structure, but then those individual sites are completely independent of one another, right? So they're kind of creating this organic copy that could stand on its own. So as a result, you lack the ability to know that you're using a larger system, particularly when this is out in a production environment. Now, at times you don't want that, right? So like if I go to the HAXcms website, which is published and it's being hosted off of GitHub pages, I don't necessarily want that to be, to have some larger organizing construct. Wow, it's loading really slowly at the moment. Apparently, CDM was seeding, okay. So I don't want that, right? I don't want some ability to get between sites because this isn't a published static form. It's the deployed website, if you will. However, when I'm working on them, I do need the ability to potentially jump between them. Or if we start, as we start to get more into like remix capabilities, I want to be able to find other people's sites and say like, yeah, I want to copy that. So in part to get down this train, this is why we've shifted the user interface over to the left here. Now, it used to be at the bottom and you used to have, you go to this page and I click a button. Why we're shifting this up here, and I can actually go to a slightly behind version. There we go. This is the way it used to be. So you'd have this bar down here, and then you could collapse and expand it, and just be in context of this site. But this doesn't visually provide any methodology by which you can kind of link off to other spaces, right? This is very self-contained, which was the point actually at the time. Now, why we've shifted over here, and it's minor, right? But so I hit edit. I've got just these options in context. It also positions this up over here more, right? So I'm working more with the left-hand edge. But more importantly, when I hit this settings gear, it slides the interface out of the way. So, and granted, it's a little clunky. We need to work on that some more. But what this is affording me is this kind of reveal what's behind the curtain, if you will, right? So it's pushing the UI out of the way, and it's like, oh, hey, here's the options that underlie that. This creates a perfect visual space to start to have like a profile icon, to have my name, to have a click and access those other sites, right? Pull up and query and access this other data to jump to the other spaces in the interim. So I pull this up, move to the side, say this is gonna be a documentation website instead, hit go, and now my test is moved over to that little style leakage there. There we go. Okay. So now I've shifted it over to a different design, right? And because I have this push and pull, we're being able to establish a larger system context. That there's more behind the scenes than just like, oh, hey, you're working on this one website. So a problem as part of that then is, I'm going to open up an incognito tab here. So this is already positioned to that link in an incognito window, but I'm not logged in. And so because I'm not logged in, I don't get any ability to log in. Like let's say I didn't actually start at this page and go to login. Notice there's no ability to log in. There's nothing in the interface for that. So what we had to do is add support for an event. And so the way it looked is, because we support multiple backends in this, even though PHP is the primary one we're developing with now, effectively what we need to do is say, well, when we're establishing that this is a PHP backend and this part of the Hax's bootstrap cycle, it's going to put this element down on the interface. And this element has a JWT login element inside of it. And so this is going to broker the conversation, figure out, are we actually logged in? Do we have a JSON web token, which is what JWT stands for? And so if we do have a JSON web token, which that tag actually does validation on the fly, if we have that, we're going to dynamically import the editing interface, which is why you end up seeing one there. However, and this is what we just added, the initial scaffolding for, I haven't actually done anything with it yet, is we need to dispatch an event that is HAXcms not logged in. And now the PHP backend in this case, that's what this element is called, brokering us to a PHP-based backend because it's a headless system. It doesn't have any clue what the hell to do with this because it doesn't know the UI considerations or whatever. And honestly, we don't know what those are yet. But to see what we would do with them is then at the top level of the document or via some other elements that have to do with, can log in type of a deal. We would have something like this where we'd be listening for that event, again, on the window, because that's where we fired it from. And then in this case, just to be silly, you might say, hey, you should log in. So now if I'm at the site, and again, I'm logged in this case, I get the website, but I don't actually get that mean message. If I'm logged out, you see it detects, hey, this isn't actually a valid user that's logged in. And so we're going to call you a jerk. So again, it's a silly example as far as where we are with that. But you could imagine that then themes could supply the ability to say, oh, well, then put the login button here. Or actually more likely it would be in the settings, probably surrounding publishing or some type of advanced settings where there would be you create or visibly show login button when logged out. And maybe that's the default setting. And so what you'd end up getting when this is published, right? Like if I would go to btopro.com, in this case it's running off this, a published site would always flip that checkbox automatically. So that when it's published, there is no ability to log in because this is purely a static site. However, we could then allow users the flexibility to say, well, as you're working on it, then you could actually, check the box or check it off if you don't want people to be aware that this is something that can be logged into. Areas where that could be useful would be in the case of like this is in a hosted environment. This is a SaaS-based version of HAXcms. So anyone that comes to this gets spun up a copy of HAXcms. However, the way that my students access this, right? So if this is where I go to then write up this next lesson or lecture, whatever you want to call it, and provide feedback and set up what the labs are going to be and create links. What they access it on is actually at this location, which is oer.hax. And so what oer.hax, that piece read does in this case, is it's not published. There is a backend. However, it hasn't detected that you're logged in, and so it doesn't show anything. So you can see down in here, and that's where this tag HAXcms-backend-php comes into play. It has detected that there is a PHP-based backend available, but I don't have a valid login token. And if I don't have a valid login token via that JSON web token, it won't show me the interface bits to be able to actually edit this. Even if I got those surfaced because I don't have the JSON web token, it wouldn't do anything valid anyway. But this could be an example potentially of leveraging those settings to say, okay, well, where do you want to publish this to? Right now it just has these like basic CDN settings. But if I said, oh, well, allow publishing to the OER form, hey, I need you to not let people log in, then it would block people from being able to log in at this OER location. However, if I was at the IAM location, in this case, maybe those tools are surfaced and I click to open and get my additional experience, imagine it's the flyout version, not that one, yeah. And have the login button there on, in the event that I went to sites, I was logged out because I haven't been to one of these sites in several days. So this is just kind of the ins and outs of what we're doing as far as creating a more cohesive user experience between sites and to be able to generate more and more of them more rapidly.